am going to go into sheet music. We're going to do just sheet music in this video. It's a good money maker for us. We sell sheet music every week. Every single week I sell a couple of sheet musics, no matter what. Usually you get them for $1 or $2 or less, or you can buy them in huge bulk lots. But we're going to go over to the screen, and I'm just going to talk about sheet music for you today. It's a big bolo for me every day of the week. If I can find sheet music every day, I'm going to buy it every day I can. Okay, so sheet music. First thing I want to tell you is if you're looking up sheet music for prices, you're probably not going to find well over half, maybe even 75% of what you look up, you will not find on eBay. I don't really let that bother me. What you want to do is price by similar items or similar artists. That's usually what I do. It hasn't failed me in, almost 5 years of doing this. There's a chance I may have given away, like a $70 sheet of sheet music for 45 bucks. I'm not going to worry about something like that. If you sell, all of them, high priced and you miss one, who cares? You're making all the money on them anyway. They're $1, $2 a piece at most, and usually they're even less than that if you buy huge bulk lots of sheet music. So don't let it bother you if you're paying almost nothing for sheet music, if you can't find a price on something. Key things that you look for buying sheet music in general would be anything military, pre-1900 are the best. So if it's Spanish-American War, Indian Wars, any of that thing, even the Boer Air War eras from like the English and the British battles and things, those sell too. There's a bunch of World War II and World War I's that do sell as well too. But for the most part, you want the earlier, the better ones. Topics like resorts or hotel names in a sheet music. Some of the best ones I sold is for the Victoria Hotel on Put-in-Bay Island in Lake Erie in the Ohio area. That one there, I've sold, several $100s for some of the sheet musics from there, and they do show up in the area that I'm in, so that's a good plus. You don't necessarily have to worry about what's in your area for sheet music. You just got to know how to at least address looking these things up. So we're just going to go into looking them up, and I'm going to give you some ballpark ideas. First off, let's kind of look at the category. People put them all over the place. You can see sheet music and entertainment memorabilia. Sometimes that works, like if it's an Elvis-specific sheet music with a real nice picture on the front, you could put it in the entertainment memorabilia. Sometimes you'll see people who have the big books of sheet music, they'll dump those off in like the book section, not thinking that there's another possibility, even though eBay does suggest certain categories. This is the entertainment category. I'm just going to flip through this one real quick. Overall, in the vintage and antique sheet music category, there's 67,000 listings. Of those, just over 15,000, 15,600 sold. So you've got, maybe 22, 23% sell-through rate for the category as a whole. So that tells you that, 1 in 5 is all it's worth buying. So, if you see thousands of sheet musics, chances are there's not going to be a ton out of there. You're going to actually end up buying. And, what's listed up usually is the better ones. So, if these people listed 10, they might have looked through 1,000 to get those specific 10. Who knows? Who knows what the ratio is going out to any specific person? If I pick up a huge tote of sheet music, chances are there's going to be some good ones in there, a handful of those, and then a handful that are in the, $10 to $20 range as well, too. And that's what you're looking for. You just pay so little for sheet music when you buy them in huge bulk lots. 20 bucks, you might be able to get, 30, 40, 50 pounds of sheet music. And that's not a guesstimate or anything. That's literally what I pay for the stuff. Now, you got to go to church sales and auctions, and even estate sales are good for that because people just don't mess with the sheet music too much at an estate sale. Sheet music's all over the place. Even Savers has sheet music. And I've bought sheet music from Savers that I've made good money on, too, before the ones up here close. But let's go back to the entertainment section for just a second here. And I'm just going to look and see if there's any high-priced ones. Now, this one here, we can't really count because this is something a little special. That one's from a specific show, and there would have been only a handful of those made, so we're not going to count that. Here's a Monkees one. Monkees ones, this one's probably selling because Davy Jones has since passed. We actually ran into Davy Jones at Disney when we were working there. I've got his autograph. when you're working at a place like that and you see all these famous people, you run into somebody and you might not even know who they really are. We thought when we saw him on the tram that it was just somebody we worked with or something, because he was just normal there. He was literally drunk when we saw him, and he was there with Greg Allman. It turns out they were performing that night at Pleasure Island, and he talked with us. We hit him up after he got off the tram, so we didn't call attention to him, and so people wouldn't swamp him or anything. And he was nice. He even did a little dance. A friend of ours had a video of him, dancing, and him and Greg Oman. But that was just one of the events. So stuff like this, like Davy Jones's autograph, I know it's worth money just because I have it, and we've looked it up before. Since he's passed, it's went up considerably. So this one here sells high. We're not going to count that one either. I'm just trying to give an idea on the availability and where to sell it best. These are more like autographed ones you see in the entertainment section, just to show you that every one I see on here is autographed. They're only selling basically because of that. It looks like here's an oddball one, and I'm not sure why that one's sold, but we're not going to dig into details on these. These, for the most part, are stuff you won't see. You're just not going to run into these at all. I mean, I never run into the fancier stuff. And some of the newer ones are autographed, or they're scarce, or they're, just oddball items that would sell as an entertainment collectible as opposed to a sheet music. So don't ever mess with it unless it's an autographed one, something very scarce. Don't list sheet music, or even worry about looking up sheet music in the entertainment section unless they're autographed. So just ignore that category. You just literally want to center in on the sheet music, the vintage and antique, because that's mostly what you're going to find, and that's mostly what's going to be worth the money. And again, as you see, like maybe 1 in 5 sheets will sell and are worth selling. So you just got to go through and pick out the ones. Better ones are like, let's sit here. We've already got this. Let's raise this by the highest first, so we can get a good general sense on what is the best ones to look for. Now I've got this one categorized by highest first. And you can see people put tons of high prices on them, or you'll see them in a book like this. They're bound editions, and people got high prices on them because of that, because they're Art Nouveau or something along that line. The bound editions, if you see them out in public and they're cheap to buy, I'd be very leery on buying them, because most of the time the only way to get these out is to cut them while the book is still intact, and you're going to end up ruining a bunch of the sheets. They'll all be separated. I have not seen any way or any beneficial way to separate those other than ruining a bunch of the sheets. Just to break the spine enough to get back to where you got to cut, you're probably going to rip at least 2 of them right off the bat. And that'll be like one cover or something. Either way you go, I don't mess with the books. To sell or whatever the case may be. They don't sell online very high just because people know how hard it is to break them apart. So that's just something you got to take into consideration. Let's see here. Real photo. Let's look at the first one, the first high dollar one that's of consequence. That's on its own. It's a real photo. And this is Henry Ward Beecher. He's a poet, if I'm not mistaken, a writer and a poet. Something like this that has a real photo on it. So anything with a real photo, anything, and I don't care what it is, with a real photo seems to sell. I don't know. Let's look at this one here. It almost looks like this one didn't sell. Yeah, it's probably the same one, or he got lucky. No, it's actually a different one. Look at that. He's got 2 of the same basically styles and sheets, just with different images. That's pretty unique. I haven't seen either one of those, and you can see the high price they command, and he's even got another one here. That's pretty interesting that there's so many of them. Makes me wonder on where those actually would have come from. Some here again, this one here we'll discount because again, this one's autographed by Irving Berlin. Now that's something scarce. It's selling because of his name with a sheet that he might have used. Those do sell for higher prices at that way. Some of the subject matter is, a bit touchy, so I don't handle certain issues or certain areas. That's just me. You can do what you want. I don't like some of the wording or the terminology used. Obviously, it's not me at all, but you're going to run into it looking these up, just to let you know. But on to the pricing here. Civil War, as I said, any military one seems to sell. This one here is a very famous song. I'm sure everybody's heard it. Union Volunteers. It's a military. It's high dollar one. That's what I say. When you see the Civil War ones, that's one of the exceptions here. Like this bound book. This is a Civil War collector who would have bought that. So bound books in general do not sell very high, but this one here has, Children of the Battlefield and battle related. I've looked at this one, so we won't go into the details on it. Spend your time if you're interested in learning some about this and look up these very same listings and actually go into the details of the listings and look what's in the book. Now this one again sold to a collector, a specific collector of Civil War memorabilia. So it's not going to probably be broken apart because they're all Civil War circa sheets. So that one's again one of those special oddball ones. For the most part, don't mess with the sheets that are in books. Baseball ones in any field, whether it's real picture postcards or whatever the case may be, baseball ones always sell as well too. Roosevelt related ones, I've sold every Roosevelt one I've had for at least $10. So if Roosevelt's on the cover, Theodore or Teddy Roosevelt, either or, you've got the Rough Riders or you've got the president, picture wise on these. Either one of those is good. Again, baseball, any baseball that's decent like 1950 goes very well. Even some newer baseball goes for like newer teams. There's scarce sheets that were only, made locally or something along that line, like Preston, a specific city, like the Red Sox one here. This is obviously going to go. I would have had no question about it. And sheet music is one of those areas that you can list either way and still come out okay either way. So you could list them as literally like a auction, or list them as a buy it now. When you do it as a buy it now, you're going to be throwing some high prices out there with no idea whether it's worth that much or not. So you want to make sure you're picking a good topic. Like if it's a baseball one, I'll always put a huge price on a baseball one, at least $300 or $400 for most baseball ones from the 1920s or before. Some of the other ones you're not sure on if it's tied to something specific. You're just going to have to look it up, and if you can't find it looking up, you can do a Google search on it too, and sometimes you'll find more information doing it that way too. So don't always rely just on eBay. Have a couple windows open like I do now, and look up, a Google search on it, and you'll literally find more sometimes on a Google search of that specific title than you would on eBay. And again, if you don't find anything of that title on eBay, that's not a problem. If you don't see any that aren't going cheap, that's a good plus too. This is one of the cases where you'd probably want to look up all the active listings as well too, not just the ended for pricing these, because sometimes, it only takes one to give you an idea on sheet music anyway. I don't use this philosophy most other places of the areas that I sell, like live auctions. I only want to know what they sold for the most part. If you see some that have bids and that's the only place you can find them in the sheet music section, kind of judge by those. And usually if there's something up and there's no bids on it, sometimes I'll wait till that one ends until I list an item in the sheet music category. I do better in books too, so keep that in mind. Some of the books always sell for $10, $20 just because it's a large collection. Now these are like a magazine-sized book of sheet music for one specific artist. They started doing those in the 1920s-ish era, and you'll find them, to like Beat Me Daddy, A to the Bar, like a title of one book, and it's literally that kind of swing, jazz swing from like the 30s, 40s, World War II area. Even those sell. And even if the pieces wouldn't sell individually, they'll still sell as a book in the same category. So keep that in mind. If you have a choice and you only have enough money to buy the books, and they're vintage and they're good people, they're good type of music like swing, jazz especially, or movie related from that era, 1910 to 1930s-ish, buy the books over the single sheets if you got no other choice and you only can buy some. It just depends on it. Usually if you see something that says syncopation or syncopators, that's another good one that you look for. Almost always if it says syncopation or syncopators, it's jazz or ragtime. And know a little something about the performers. Scott Joplin, everybody should know who that is. Now, I took jazz history, so I know a lot more than a lot of the average people, but I knew who Scott Joplin was before. Type it in and do a search if you don't know who that is. High ragtime era sheet musics go for the hundreds, and that is usually what they do and what they sell for in that range. It's just a fact. Here's a real nice one. The artwork's awesome. Devil and Satan on the cover, Cupid on the cover. That always sells sheet music as well too. Ragtime, those were the titles and what you're going to look for. You can see again another good ragtime, and this person didn't even list the artist in the title. If that tells you how good this is just by the image and the type of music it is.
If it says Ragtime or Rag on it, you've probably got something worth at least 10, 20 bucks no matter what. That's just how those go with those. And there's other ones that are worth money too. Artists from the 30s, 40s, and 50s can go well too. You really want like jazz singers or like Elvis, real scarce early Elvis or something along that line, rock stars. I don't mess with that kind of stuff for the most part. So, just take that in mind that you're going to run across these sometimes in these stacks. And some of these are not nice titles. Al Frank Baum. If you don't know who that is, look it up. Everybody should know who that is as well, too. I'm not going to say who it is, but look it up, please. That is one name you should always know for books or for cards or for anything. Anything along that line. Anything that he wrote, if it's titled into sheet music, it sells. So any of his books, and I'll leave that to you to figure out who he is if you don't know. Lesson learned, if you don't know and you figure out who he is, you should be a little shocked that you don't know who he is. So please look him up, everybody, if you don't know. Let's see here. Swanee One Step. George Gershwin sells too. Now it's got to be early for this. Swanee is actually a real river. We've driven over it. We've been on it in a boat before. So anything that says that usually sells very well. Let's see here. World War I, as you see, there are some good ones in World War I. This one's an oddball title. This is another one of those, Shelton Brooks. It just depends on what the performer is, who it is, and that will sell them as well, too. So sometimes it doesn't matter at all what the thing looks like, what the sheet looks like. It matters who's the performer. Early Texas and ranch. This is a Plains Indian era, of settling of the West. This one's a very nice one. It's probably engraved, that image you see right there, the buffalo. Very nice one. I would have thought that one would have been worth money. That would have probably one I would have actually put up as an auction myself, too. I don't do a lot of auctions because I don't run into these huge high-dollar ones that often. Again, these are very scarce, some of these here. But you do run across them. You look through enough sheet music, you're going to run into the ones that cost hundreds and sell for hundreds. Almost every time I get a huge lot, a couple thousand of them, I'll run into several that sell for a couple $100. It's a given anyway for us. I don't know what your sourcing material is in your area, but again, top source for us is church sales. Second source would be live auctions, and third source are estate sales, fourth garage sales, in that order. That's literally the order if I have only an option to go to one and all four of those sources have them, I'm going to the church sale first. The churches collect them. People donate them to the church, so the church usually has more than the folks that are going out to buy them to collect for themselves, from the 20s, 30s, 40s. There wasn't radios around for a long time when sheet music started coming out, so sheet music that people would get together and play the music and, sing and do stuff at their house. So this is the media of the day, the sound recordings. This is what they did. So they started to die out at a certain point when they weren't as popular. They took off again in the 50s and sometimes in the 40s. You'd have little spurts of huge sales of sheet music for the music that was popular that people wanted to play themselves, like rock bands and, jazz bands and things like that. So that's just a quick history on it. But again, baseball, the Kaiser's Dead March. Now that's another good topic, like Satan and the devil and hell. That kind of topic always sells. Look for the imagery as well, too. Again, Scott Joplin. Again, I don't have to say that. You should know who he is and that his stuff always sells. Ragtime. You see Scott Joplin? Ragtime. That's just a given. Maple Leaf Rag. Look that up as well, too. That one always sells for us if it's the original with this photo on it. Again, Civil War campaign. This is all tied to the Civil War. This one here was one of those rare exceptions that could have been listed in the Civil War military section in the collectibles rather than sheet music. And that's just how some of these are. And I'm just centering in here on the sold ones again because we see that almost 80% of them aren't selling. So that just gives you an idea on them. And some of the topics are kind of bad. More of the photo ones. You see there's a lot that just don't sell. So we're just going to center in on specifics. Like here, this one, Scott Joplin Ragtime, he's got way too high price on it. These average like 2 to 3. So if he would put it at a 300 with a buy it now, make an offer, he'd probably get an offer to 250. He might be able to hold on to it and get that for it, but I've never seen a Scott Joplin sell that high. Never. And I watch sheet music, a couple times a month. I look through and do this exact same thing, exactly what you're seeing me do now. I do a couple times a month to refresh my memory. And I'm pretty good. If I've seen it like this I may not remember the price, but I know it's a good one. That's just how I am with the stuff like this. I've tried hard to keep these in mind and stuff, and I go over these sometimes a couple of times. So that's just me. Marlene Dietrich. This one's one of those oddball ones. For the most part, a lot of these singers like this, they made a ton of each one, but you'll run across, even Bing Crosby has some that's worth, 100, 150 bucks. And you can sell them in lots too. This person might buy this lot of 1,200 and then try and resell them. It's not always a good deal though, even at those cheap prices like that. Irving Berlin, this is a rare one. I've never seen this one. This one here, you've got Fireman on the cover. That's going to sell no matter what too. That's just a given. Let's see here, some more topics that are kind of iffy. China images the same way. Those seem to sell as well too. Large format is what you really want. Mystic City, that's clans. I don't mess with those at all. That's one area I won't sell no matter what. Again, another campaign one, presidential. This is tied to the Civil War, and it even has Civil War in the title. Again, I don't mess with any of the hate groups or anything like that. So that's your call. I'm not going to tell you to or not to, but I don't do it. I won't do it. I don't care what I can make on it. Batman, I would have definitely hit up on this one. This is always worth money. The Batman, the TV show series, any of the TV shows. Maybe not so much like 77 Sunset Strip or something like that. But I have sold them, kooky, lend me your comb. That one usually sells fairly well. If you don't know what 77 Sunset Strip is, just do a YouTube search and just listen to the beginning of it. You'll see what it is. Again, signed one here, John Philip Sousa. So stuff like that, if it's signed, you're selling it for the autograph. I just stated Maple Leaf. Here's the Maple Leaf here. This one I have had. This one always goes in the hundreds. Scott Joplin is one of the ones you're going to have to remember. Remember that name. His name is a BOLO, just his name on a sheet music, if it's original large format and there's no secondary date on the sheet. Usually if it's large format, even if it is a secondary date, you can still get good money out of some of his. Let's see here. That one's a bad topic. We won't get into that. Here's a book again. This one, who knows what's in here? It might be worth sacrificing some to buy the books to get one single one out. Who knows? But for the most part, I don't mess with books at all, personally. Large format. In fact, there's one that I just showed you in the same listing, or at least it's the same. Yeah, it is My Pony Boy. See, so there's one right there. And they use that for showing you what's good in the lot. So that's probably a good one that I have even. You're going to run across the similar ones or the same ones or ones that use the same artwork but aren't the same song. Cakewalks. If you see Cakewalks, that's a Ragtime, minstrel era. Those are always good. The songwriter itself could make a difference, like this one here. Cowboys and Westerns always sell. The earlier, like 1890s, in that era and before. This one's 1900, so that's right about in that ballpark. Silent film thematic cue sheets. Now, these are what would be played in a silent movie by the orchestra, since obviously none of the films had sound. So this is what they did for silent movies. Those always sell. I always sell the ones that say silent film or tell you how to actually perform it during the movie. Those are the ones you want to. Jazzmania, now that's a scarce one. I've had that one. Again, that's one I would have known to put 200-300 on. I'm not going to tell you not to mess with these big lots on eBay, but they've probably been looked through just like the postcards for the most part. Oh, wow, this is the bomb here. A Coca-Cola one. They always sell the Coke ones like that. So Coca-Cola. Some of the Disney ones aren't worth much at all, but this is one of the exceptions. The earlier, the better on the Disney ones. If they're early 30s or before, they're usually worth much more. Dynamite Rag, good topic. It's a Ragtime, so those always sell. Let's see here. That's a good one. Vivid. It's very vivid. Those are just an awesome one. The artwork alone on that one probably sold that. Another one of the Marlene Dietrichs. Rhapsody in Blue. George Gershwin. Plain George Gershwins always sell. This one, though, is from the concert band. This is probably from one of the performances, and that's why it sold so much. Now, some of these will say for performance use only. Those are only available to the artists who performed this professionally. So those always sell as well, too. Again, a lot of the more common ones you're going to see. Gone with the Wind, for the most part, doesn't sell unless it's something very odd. This is a new one. Why this sold so high, I have no idea. There might be a signature or something on it. But again, you can research these on your own a little better and give yourself a better idea. Uncle Sam on most things usually sell. And again, that's, I think, James Montgomery Flagg is who actually did the painting on this one. So that is why it's selling. I've said in other videos that the artist who did the artwork on the cover of the sheet music can make it sell on its own. Who cares what the sheet music is? The painting, the image on that sells. Same thing with magazines. Like a Norman Rockwell cover will usually sell a magazine if it's early enough. I believe he used to do covers for, I think it's called St. Nicholas, magazine from like the 1899, 1910 era, if I'm not mistaken. You'll have to look that one up to confirm that. But if I'm not mistaken, that is the case. And his covers, anything that he did on the covers from that series of magazines, if that isn't the title, whatever the magazine series he first did, those covers sell the magazine. You could almost cut off the cover and just sell the cover. People want them to frame them. They're very scarce. They're not produced in book form for the most part. You might see one scattered one here or there, so you can't collect copies of that image other than the magazine or other than the sheet music itself either. Again, the same Minnie Mouse, Mickey. It's got to be the early ones. This is Irving Berlin, so that one really helps it too. Maybe it's not selling so much as being Disney, but by Irving Berlin. Eddie Cochran, he's a rockabilly star, so that one would sell just because of that. And this is an early one. Haven't seen that one before, so, the rockers sell too. Anything that's considered a rockabilly sells. Another big lot. Now, these you could sell at like a flea market all day long, $2, $3 a piece, easy, just for the artwork if they all look like that. Again, Rag, look for Ragtime in the title. Again, here you go, Rag in the title, Halley's Comet. It comes around like every 76, 78 years, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Anything that says that, even a postcard from that same era would sell fairly high. Again, some topics that, I won't broach on here. Anti-Loaf and Blues. Now, this is a blues one. This is a very scarce one. I would have known this one as well was a good one. Even the police officer in the cover should give it away, just for the artwork's sake itself. Let's see here. Oops, I kind of bumped up. There's that one again. Ragtime again. Now look on the inside. If you don't see Rag listed on it, if it says Foxtrot, open it up the sheet music. Anyone that says Foxtrot that's large format, open them up. It'll usually say Rag in the very top on the very first page that has printed the actual musical bars on it. It'll usually say Rag somewhere up on the top left. Foxtrot is usually a jazz no matter what, so if it says Foxtrot, it's from that era. You've got a good chance on it being Rag if it's the 1890s through 1910 era. Not always, and not every Foxtrot could be considered jazz. I've seen a few that aren't. Comic bowling. This is a bowling one, so that's why this one's selling. Sports, again, related to the, like a baseball one, same kind of thing. This one should have turned it. Gulf Coast Blues. I've had the 78. Again, if it's a rare jazz performer that you would see on a 78, chances are that song is worth money on sheet music too. Ragtime again. Rag sells. So look those up. Know some of the names of the top Ragtime people. Scott Joplin. Know that name. Here's a real early one. Sheet music's from like War of 1812 up through, the Mexican-American War. And, even up through the Indian War sells. It's got to say something specific or have something really good. Most of the time you're going to run into these, they're going to be for a specific general, a specific battle, like the Battle of Chickamauga or something along that line if it was Civil War, or Fredericksburg. All of those sell. Every one of those. Buy them up. $5, $10 I'll pay for those if I have to. I never usually have to pay for them because people don't pay attention to sheet music. They'll just shove them out on a table in a big, huge box and put $1 or $2 on each sheet, or even sometimes $3. And if you're buying a ton of them and they have them for $3 a piece, ask them to take $1 or $2 if you buy like 50 or 60 of them. It might be worth you buying them to do it that way. If you see a huge lot and it's $20, $30, it would be a super learning experience if you have $20 or $30 to waste. You can always dump them off in an auction house later on, buy those sheet musics, pull them out, and spend a couple hours looking through them and looking up the ones that you think are worth money. And then once you've done that, go back through that same lot and pull out the ones that you thought, well, maybe they're not worth something, but they're from some oddball one, or they say Foxtrot, and look up the ones that you didn't think were worth money and see how good your senses were on pulling them out. Sheet music again, Ragtime. I'm not going to talk about the lots because you can pretty much look through those and see. Jane Mansfield, as a general rule, hers will sell at least $10 for any one. Rock Around the Rock Pile. That's probably from a movie, if I'm not mistaken. I believe I've seen that one before. Tailspin, Alice Faye. Some of these are rare, and you're not going to know that. So when in doubt, you can always just shove up some of the ones that you think might be worth something and put them up as an auction. Put them up $19.99 and just see what happens. That's what we kind of do sometimes. Or we'll just throw up, $57.50 and just put a price on it like that. But just keep in mind that sometimes you could be wrong. You never know on sheet music, and you could put something up. This one could have been up for a year, so if you can't wait, that may not be an option for you either. So again, keep these things in mind. Song of the South, that's a special Disney one. Most of the Song of the South sell. If they're in foreign language, like that one's Italian, they're going to sell too. Let's see here. Again, composers, if I can keep it straight here. This is a good one. Composers-wise, we'll sell them too. So when you're looking these up and you can't find it by the song title, my first choice to look up a sheet is type in the song title. If I can't find the song title, then I'm going to go to the person who wrote the song. If I can't find the person who wrote the song, I'll go to the third and last topic, which is the writer of the music. There's a songwriter and then there's the music writer. They sometimes can be different or they sometimes can be the same. But those are the three key things that you look up. In very rare instances do you look up the name of the company that printed it. Usually the name that printed it doesn't matter. But there are a few companies that printed so few sheets that if you find anything by that company, that those are worth money only because of the company that printed them. But those are few and far between. When you look through a bunch of sheet music, you're going to run across the same names over and over and over again, the same printing company names. So don't always pay attention to those. Again, the first thing you look for is the song title. The second thing you look for is the writer of the song. And the third thing is the writer of the music, if it's different than the songwriter. But that's just a real good rough guess on these. Some of these, again, the cover, rare cover art. See, I'm telling you, the cover art itself can sell. So if it's a very pretty, attractive one, you might look at the cover artist as well, too. That would probably be the fifth one on there. But again, you need to have an eye for what's real nice, fancy cover artwork. If it's something just out of the ordinary, just fancy painting, if it looks like an oil painting, look those up too. That would probably be the fifth one in the row of what to look up when you're trying to find the prices on these. And that's literally about the only topics that you would need to look up on these. But you're going to have to know something about them. This one's got Coca-Cola in the title. This one's a race-related automobile, so of course Speed King March is going to sell. This is probably similar and such forth like a Ragtime or a Foxtrot. I would bet it would stay on the inside. But look some of these up yourself. Odd sheet music from the 70s will sell as well, too. Again, this is an odd, scarce one. I've never seen Space Captain. I know what it is. I know the song. Ragtime again sells. Ragtime again sells. Ragtime is what I personally look for because I find more ragtime than anything else. 50s and 60s. Let's do another quick search just to give you an idea. And then from here, I'm going to let you guys do some searches on your own if that's the way you want to go. If you're going to look for these and make some money on them, you're going to have to do some searching and do just what I'm doing now. This is how you're going to get an idea. I'm not going to search it all and show you everything in this video. This is going to give you your start. I've told you the main key areas. You first need to look up the title of the song, then the writer of the song, the writer of the music, possibly the company that made them, and possibly the artist who did the artwork on the cover. That's just the key things you want to look up for. But once you're looking into rock or something, the amount that sell for the hundreds goes way down very quickly. And we've already even seen several of these as well, too. So you can see they go down. The Doors, the Beatles, a lot of those will sell. Badfinger, they will sell. They're scarce. This is an Apple printed one. So this one's here is a progressive, very scarce. So there are some that sell that still sell very high. But for the most part, the minute you go out of jazz and ragtime, the prices go drastically down. They still sell, don't get me wrong, but they just don't sell as high. Newer ones do, though, sell higher than most of the older ones. So if you got like Faith No More, if you got Soundgarden or Nirvana, those will sell too, not super high. Soundgarden, though, sells fairly high. So a lot of the 90s music will sell as well in the higher dollar range. But that just gives you an idea. You can kind of see how quickly they drop down the minute I change to rock. Now, a lot of folks not going to sell I had a Bob Dylan I showed you, so if it has Bob Dylan, it sells. Beatles Songs book usually sells. Gene Vincent, Mr. Loneliness, these are just rockabilly people too, so you could have typed in rockabilly. Yardbirds sell because Jimmy Page, the guitarist from Led Zeppelin's in there, so, you just have to know a little bit. White Room, Cream, you've got Eric Clapton in there, George Harrison, the record for this one sells, so that's going to sell here. But that's just an overall look on these. So, rock and roll ones will sell, but not as high as most of the jazz and the ragtime. Not at all. You can see that. So this just gives you a real rough estimate on sheet music. If you're going to do sheet music, hit up the church sales, hit up the live auctions, and then hit up third would be estate sales, fourth garage sales, and wherever else you may see them at. You can buy sheet music when you're at these antique malls too. Just as easily as you're buying the postcards at antique malls and antique stores, the sheet music is usually priced the very same way as the postcards. A dealer doesn't look them up. They'll put 50 cents, $1, $2, or $3 on every single sheet music they have, other than some of the real scarce ones that they may have any basic knowledge on. For the most part, though, you can just walk into an antique mall and do the same thing you do with the postcards. So keep that in mind. So if you have no other options to find sheet music, go to an antique mall. Spend your time with your phone and look some of those up. Look for the very graphic ones, the large format, and start with those. And that's going to make you some money. I promise you, if you do pay attention to what I just showed you, you do a little bit of research on your own, you're going to be able to turn quick dollars on sheet music. I buy and buy the 50, 60, 100 of them at a time. And the ones that I buy, I've got the top dollar ones out of the lots. That's what you need to be able to do. You need to be able to go to a store and buy every ragtime one and know the difference. Buy the large formats that are good money. Buy the earlier ones, the military ones. That's how you're going to make all your money on these. Yeah, I've showed you the basics here. It's going to just take you, the time to just look at them and know at least the keywords. With sheet music, you can just use keywords to find what you're looking for. So when you're trying to search, in a store and you're looking through these, yank out all the ones that say ragtime if they're 50 cents or $1 and just buy them. Ragtime will sell you. As long as they're large format and pre-1920, they're good ragtime sheets, no matter what. You saw. If it says Scott Joplin, buy it every single time. Like Pink Floyd's going to sell and stuff like that too, but they're not going to go for high dollar. Again, pick them up, but they're not going to go for high dollar. So that's just a rough guess. That's what I got for you today. Hopefully that gives you some good ideas on them. This information is there for you. There's other sites that I can show you in the future here that you can find some sheet music prices on too. Once in a while, you'll find sheet music prices on PopPsych as well. But again, if it's a high dollar record and you can't find a price for the sheet music, it's a scarce jazz record, and you find it on PopPsych, chances are the sheet music's worth something. So that's another secondary option you can use. That's an insider for me. And most of the time, I don't go and tell too many people, but you got the information there. Sometimes you can find prices for them based on what the record sells for. So PopPsych can come in handy for that as well. But that's what I have. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope that gives you some ideas.
Again, that's sheet music. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. Again, hit the bell icon up top here, and that's going to tell you whenever I have new videos coming up. Hit the like button. Comment below if you have any questions. Subscribe and tell a friend.